30, verse 14. Vayelech Ruvain, and Ruvain went out, bimei ketzir chitim. He went out in the harvest season, the harvest of the wheat. Vayimtza dudaim, and he found these dudaim, basadeh, dudaim in the field. Vayaveo tam el Leah imo, he brought them to Leah's mother. Vatomer Rachel Leah, Tanina limi dudai benech, give to me, please, from the mandrakes of your son. So let's see, from the dudaim of your son. Rashi does not translate it as mandrakes, interestingly. Let's just go to see what it is. Bimei ketzir chitim. Why it doesn't mention it was in time of the wheat harvest? To tell us, Rashi says, Lagid shifchan shel shvatim, the praise of the tribes. She'et hakatziraya, was the time of the harvest. V'lo pashat yado begazel la'avil chitim usaorim. So he didn't steal to bring wheat or barley, but rather he brought something that was devar hefker, she'en adam machpidbo, brought something that was ownerless, that nobody would want. The farmers, meaning to say, even though it's the time of the wheat harvest, when the farmers usually don't mind if a passerby takes a few stalks, nevertheless, he only took that from which was ownerless. Now, what were these dudaim? Rashi translates it as sigli. Hey, let's go, Elon and Yoav, let's go. So Rashi translates it as, what are dudai? Sigli. Sigli is jasmine or violet. In brachos, anyway, so nobody really knows what these flowers are that Reuven gave to his mother. Rashi translates, it's usually translated as mandrakes because of the magical powers associated with that. But Rashi translates it as sigli, which most people assume is jasmine, but elsewhere Rashi identifies a different word as being jasmine. So therefore, the bottom line is, we're not sure what this flower is. We're not sure. So we're chapter 30, verse 15. So Vatomer La, so Rachel, when she sees that Leah gets these dudaim from her son, Rachel said to Leah, give them to me. I want some of these dudaim that your son brought. Now, when Leah hears this, she says, Vatomer La, Leah says to her, is it not enough that you took my husband? You also want to take? How you doing, Ezra? Let's go. Is it not enough that you took my husband? You want to also take my flowers from my son? Vatomer Rachel. Okay, this is a little bit off-putting, Elon. It's a little bit off-putting because what he's doing, what Rachel says is, she says, you can sleep with my husband tonight in exchange for these flowers. That doesn't strike me as very modest. And so that's why people assumed that the flowers are not just flowers, but why did Rachel want the flowers so badly? Because they were. Why do you think she wanted the flowers? If this assumption, the flowers seem to be some sort of fertility potion, Elon. So she was saying, if you give me the ability to sleep with if you give me the flowers, then the next time I sleep with my husband, I'll be able to become pregnant. So that's the assumption.
Can I add two things?
Of course. Hold on. Yes, Rabbi Yosef, please add.
One is that we find that when women live in the same place, their periods and cycles sync, sort of. So both of them would have been fertile that night, according to this explanation. And second is that this is a question: did Reuven ever get Sachar for having the fifth son of Leah born because of his efforts, or whatever it is?
Not that I know of, but here's what I don't know, I never heard that, but this is what Rashi says, that Reuben didn't get schar, but she was punished. Rachel was punished because she spoke about Yaakov in such a belittling manner. She said, therefore, Yishkavi Machalayla, meaning to say, he was supposed to sleep with me this night, but I'm going to give it to you in exchange for the dudayim of your son. And because she was belittling the mishkav of the tzaddik, because she was belittling sleeping with the tzaddik, she was not privileged to be buried with him. So the reason why Rachel was not buried with Jacob was because she traded a night with him for some flowers.
Wait, what does that even mean?
What does what mean?
You said, what was the last thing you said?
Because she traded a night with Jacob for some flowers. Because what happened was in the story, Reuven brought home these special flowers from the field, and he brought home for his mother Leah. And at that moment, Rachel desired the flowers, so she said, "Let me have the flowers." And Leah said, "You already took my husband. You want my flowers?" So Rachel said, "I'll give you Jacob for a night if you give me the flowers." And so she traded her night with Jacob for the flowers. And because she was so unappreciative or disrespectful about the night with Jacob, therefore she lost the right to be buried with him. That's what Rashi says. What do you make of that?
In the beginning,
What?
so I can't.
All right, you'll chavrusa it in the car. Ezra will explain it to you. What do you make of that, Elon?
I think it's a little bit of extreme punishment. I think if a wife doesn't want to be with her husband one night, I think that shouldn't be a problem.
Right, but she shouldn't trade him for flowers. Like, she made him like, right, you're saying it's her right. Okay, fair. Okay, so
What do you think about that?
I think it's an excellent question. I see your perspective. I feel like the relationship with Rachel and Jacob is a very sad relationship. I'm always bothered by it because at first, Yaakov loves her clearly the most. But then after that moment where they had this love, it's just a tragic story. First, she can't have children, and then he yells at her and he insults her when she can't have children. Then she has to, why didn't she say to Yaakov, "Can you get me flowers?" Why is somebody bringing flowers to her sister? It's so sad that nobody's bringing her flowers. So that's sad for Rachel. And then when she finally has a child, and this is a child who's hated by the other brothers, and then then she finally has a second son, and she dies during childbirth. So on the one hand, it's extremely sad. But on the other hand, it's specifically because Rachel went through so much heartache and pain that we go by, the Jewish people, I think, more than anybody else, we call out to Rachel. Rachel is the one who davens for us. Rachel is the one who cries for her children. Rachel is the one who refuses to be comforted. When we're on the road, Rachel comes out. People today, they all go to visit. Everybody makes pilgrimages to Kever Rachel. She's the only one of the patriarchs and the matriarchs who has her own grave, who has her own pilgrimage. Everybody else is together. You know, go on Marasa Machpelah with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah. But they don't stand up by themselves. But Rachel, because she has the pain, she has the voice. She's able to speak up on behalf of Am Yisrael. So it's a little bit of it's a sad story, but it's a story of the Jewish people. So that's what I think. You asked me a question, that's my answer. Okay, so then what happens in the next pasuk? Hold on. So he says, Vatomer la. Hold on one second.
Verse 16, Rabbi.
Yeah. Hold on one second.
verse 16. Vatomer la. And well, we said 16. So he said, verse 16, Jacob comes home from the field in the evening. What was he doing? Presumably he was working. But he, ironically, like I said, he didn't bring the flowers for his wife. He didn't bring anything for Rachel. Only Reuven brought it. Leah goes out to greet him. And she says to him, she says, Eli tavo, come to me, because I surely have hired you, in exchange for the flowers, these dudaim of my son. He sounds like a prostitute. I've hired you? It's the language is vulgar. But Rashi therefore corrects it and says, not that I hired you, natati Rachel Sarah, I gave Rachel payment. But the actual language says, I hired you. It's like she paid. Let's go, Colby. Come on. Let's go. Right here, Colby. Let's go. I'm going to say the one who's the best steiger at the end of the week, at the end of every week, the one who's the best steiger will be allowed to wear my hat for the mincha prayers. That's what we're going to do. Whoever's the best steiger at the end of the week will get to wear my hat for one tefillah. What? It's a great reward, yeah. So Yaakov doesn't want to say that I hired. Yaakov doesn't want to say that I hired. Rashi doesn't want to say that she hired Yaakov because that's vulgar, and so therefore he changes the word to say I paid Rachel for. I gave Rachel her payment, which is a little bit differently, but it's also like you're buying and selling a slave. It makes it seem like Yaakov is not the one in charge. Yaakov is not in charge. So it flips everything on its head. Who's in charge here? The woman of the tribe is in charge. And so she was with him that night, until he was with her on that night. Rashi says, what does that mean? This is a very, very unusual Rashi. Very unusual Rashi. We have to see what that means. It says he slept with her, balayla, who? It should say, balayla hahu. When it says he slept with her, balayla who? That night, him. It's unusual. So listen to what Rashi says. Rabbi Yosef maybe could pull up a commentary on this, on the Rashi here, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu Sio, God assisted him that night. Sheyatza misham Yisachar. That Yisachar came out from that union. That night that Yaakov was with Leah, after Leah had purchased him from Rachel, that night God assisted him. Because it would have said Balayla who, but it doesn't say Balayla, it says Balayla who. So basically, Rashi in Gemara Nida tells us the story, the backstory. Yaakov was riding his donkey home, and he was riding his donkey towards Leah's tent rather than Rachel's. And God caused the donkey to go and veer from Rachel's tent to Leah. And that's why it says Yisachar, who's the baby's name, Hamor Garem, a donkey caused you. Ezra, it's all here. All these stories are from Rashi. Okay. Vayishmael kim Leah, God heard Leah. Vateled Yaakov ben Chamishi. And she gave birth to a fifth son for Jacob.
We didn't even know that she was praying.
What?
We didn't even know that she was praying. He never told us that there needs to be a shmiah here, like Hagar or Rivka.
Yeah, nobody ever. So Rashi asked that question. What do you mean God heard Leah? As Rabbi Yosef says, we have no idea that she's praying. So Rashi says, God saw that she was desirous and putting forth the effort to increase tribes. So he saw that. So therefore, for this reason, he helped her. He saw that she didn't pray, but she was doing her hishtadlus. Do you guys know what hishtadlus means? You know what I mean? Eli, and explain to everybody what ishtadlus means.
This is like doing your due diligence.
Yeah, exactly. It means you're not just going to wait. You're not going to only pray. You're going to do your due diligence. So Leah didn't actually pray for this fifth son, but she was doing her ishtadlus. She was working all over the place. Hello, Jeff. Good evening. She was trying all sorts of things to be able to pray to God. Okay. And so therefore that was considered like God heard. So this is a proof that God hears our efforts. Like you're running around, you're hustling. God sees you're hustling. You're not just saying to God, give me a parnasa, give me a livelihood. He sees you're hustling. He sees you're hustling. That hears God hears. God hears our prayers. God hears our hustle. You got to appreciate the hustle. Appreciate the hustle. I always appreciate the hustle of other people. Me? Okay. So now, Pasuk Yud Leah, we're chapter 30, verse 18, Jeff. Leah said, God gave me my reward. And so Leah said, God gave my reward, that he gave my maid to my, when I gave my maid to my husband, and she calls his name Yisachar. Leah conceived ben Shishel Yaakov. She has a sixth son. Vatomer Leah, verse 20. And Leah says, Zevadani Elokim oti zevetov. Apam yizboleni ishi ki yoladti lo shisha banim vatikra shemo Zevulun. So Leah said, God has now endowed me with zevet tov, with a good endowment. You ever hear of the ritual called a zevet abat? That's basically an endowment of the daughter, because the next daughter is the next child born after this is Dina. That's like a baby naming for a girl. It's called a zevet abat. So Leah said, God has given me a zevet tov. Now, now my husband will make his permanent home with me, because I have six sons. And she called his name Zevulun. Rashi says zevet means a portion. Yizboleni. There's a main house. In French, you know how you say a main house in French? An auberge, which is an inn. A bergamot. A bergamot. So that's the same word Rashi says. Because basically, she says, now I have as many sons as all his other wives. All the other wives, I have two sons, and I have six sons that correspond to all. So now I'm the main place he's going to live. That's where he's got the children. Jeff, I like your hat. Your hat is good, but
It's not the same.
not the same. Doesn't have the same panache. But be on the lookout for getting more.
I put $6 over yours.
It costs more than that, but I'm going for effect. Going for the effect. Okay, so if you see Rafael in Lima, if you see any cheap fox hats, let us know. Could be on the lookout. Probably things are a little cheaper there in Peru. You can get it cheaper. Okay, so now
You'll get the white ones from the alpacas.
the white fur hats. Yeah, those would be good too. Yeah, keep on the lookout there. So
Yeah, I'll try my best.
yeah, thank you, Rafael.
I'll try my best to find something.
Yeah, we're gonna visit Rafael in Lima. He's joining us on the Zoom from Lima. You been there, Jeff?
No.
Okay. V'achar yalda bat, and afterwards he gave birth to a daughter, Vatikra Shema Dina. So afterwards, Leah gave birth to a daughter, and she called her name Dina. This is an interesting one. Why does she call her name Dina, which means judgment? Our rabbi said, Shadana Leah din batzma, something beautiful. Leah judged herself. She said to herself, in Zez Zachar, if this will be a male, then my sister Rachel, she had a vision. Leah had a vision that there will be 12 tribes. And she was now pregnant with a seventh child. And she said, if this is going to be a boy, then my sister Rachel will not have even as many children, as many sons as the maids. And so therefore his palola alav, she prayed v'neh pachan akeva. She prayed and the gender of the baby was switched to a girl. Okay, so this is interesting. First of all, We see from here, you could pray to have your gender switched. What do we think about that?
Is that the best advice? Like,
I don't know. I mean, can you pray for a gender of a baby to be switched? I mean, it's
I'm not talking about the switch, I'm talking about the original prayer, because if Hashem chose to give you a daughter, it's probably because that's what you need, no? Like, and
right.
I know so many Sephardim and the Hasidic Jews who wish that their firstborn will be a boy, and you know they go extra miles to make sure of that. But I don't think that that's really what Hashem wants us. I think that we should be grateful for. I mean, in this specific
Right. I mean, I
case,
certainly
obviously
never.
she had compassion.
I certainly never prayed for a specific gender, but here is not coming that the fact that what she wanted, she just wanted to have her sister have her sister have something. But also the other
And
thing
that's
is,
admirable. And
the other thing is, it seems to me that how can it be that there are 12 boys and only one girl? Clearly, there must have been more girls, and Rashi says it's elsewhere. It's just that Dina is mentioned because she gets into she's a main character in a story in chapter 34 with coming up. So maybe she needs to be mentioned in Parshas Vayishlach. So therefore, we need to introduce her to the story. Otherwise, we won't know about her. Okay. Finally, we are to the next pasuk. But also, generally speaking, we say you're not allowed to pray for something miraculous to happen, which is you're not allowed to pray for miracles to happen. So how could she pray for the baby to be transferred from a boy to a girl? I don't know. Okay, verse 22. It states, "Vayiskor Elokim es Rachel," and so God mentioned Rachel. Vayishma Ileh, and he listened to her. Vayishma Elokim, Vayiftach es Rachma. So God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her, and he opened her womb. So what does it mean God remembered her? What did he remember? Why did God remember her? He remembered that she had given her signs to her sister. What were the signs what was the story? That when Jacob was supposed to marry Rachel, Lavan switched in Leah. But Jacob was aware that Lavan was going to do this. So he gave a sign to Rachel that Rachel would say this signs, and that's all know it's Rachel. And Rachel saw her sister was being brought out to marry Jacob. So she gave her the signs. And because she gave her the signs, God remembers her here and gives her a child. What were the signs that Jacob gave to Rachel? Anybody remember? What were those signs? Like peace? Like a secret handshake?
Something like that.
Secret handshake? You didn't get this? The Zucker experience didn't give this to you?
No.
Anybody? Jeff, do you remember this? Larry, good evening. What's the secret sign? This is the question. Larry, we're going to put you on the spot. Remember that Rachel and Jacob was supposed to marry Rachel, but in the end, Lavan switched out Leah. But Jacob was anticipating that, so he gave Rachel secret signs so that she would know it was Jacob, so he would know it was Rachel. But Rachel took these signs and gave them to Leah so that Leah wouldn't be embarrassed. So the question I've asked to the floor is, what were those signs? We just did it in the Daf Yomi, remember? You remember having the discussion?
I remember seeing the reference to about Basra 123, which
was
only 10 days ago.
No, it feels like it was 10 days ago. Yeah, but it was actually 40 days ago. So 40 days ago, I brought it up again. So that's why I thought you might remember. But maybe you were in Israel then or something. So what was the sign? It doesn't say it in the Gemara.
No.
The commentaries on the Gemara said it. He gave her signs, and that's what she gave up her signs. That's why God remembered her. But the question is, what were those signs? So one
I brought it
opinion
up,
is,
Rabbi.
what?
I brought it up. I didn't know this.
Oh, you brought up this, you brought up the answer? Okay, fine. I see it. Well, let's see which answer. So the Das Sakanim say. Right, there's two answers, and this is one of the answers. This is the most common answer. It's also the only one I remember. That he gave her the three signs, which are the mitzvahs of a woman, that a woman has to do. The nida, the chala, and adlakas neros. He gave her the sign that a woman's supposed to go to mikvah, woman's supposed to take out a portion of the dough to give to the kohen, and a woman is supposed to light the candles for Shabbos in the home. Those are the signs he gave her, and that's what she was able to. That's how she was able to. She was blessed. Okay, we'll stop here to daven at this time. All right. Shikoyach to everybody.
Yeah, sure.